Hi, everyone. The last time you saw me, I was pretty sick. Or maybe that was the time before. I don't actually remember. I'm fine now. Miraculously, I survived that. I feel like whatever I went through was so plague like that not even COVID 19 itself, nor the after effects of getting my COVID shot combined, could have equaled to the amount of pain and suffering that I went through when I got the flu. Because, like I said, when I felt like my body was acting as if I myself was the virus trying to get itself out of me, I'm not kidding. It mistook me for the infection, as if I were the foreign entity in my own body. It was horrible. Speaking of which, I went to the dentist recently. Now, if you grew up in the same lower income tax bracket as I, okay, you don't go to the doctor regularly. You don't go in for a yearly checkup or every 2-3 years. You go in when it's an emergency because we don't have the insurance, time, or money to be just going up to see if we're okay, right? When I was 15, something clicked in my brain. I don't know. And I was like, I haven't actually seen my pediatrician, I think, since I was 8. Now, when I was like 7, I had lumps at the back of my neck. And I still do. And there's several of them, and they're tiny and small. And I don't actually remember what the diagnosis was. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should go back. They didn't say it was cancerous. They didn't say it was a tumor either, but they said to watch it. Well, it's been a good 10 years. This is crazy. I actually haven't even thought about this. We're going to circle back to this in a couple months when I have to come on here and reveal that I gotta get stuff cut out of my neck. Anyway, whatever. I've got some lumps at the back of my neck. This is gonna be a crazy cutaway if something actually comes out of that quote. Whatever. So when I was 15, I went to the doctors and they were like, "Oh, you're missing some vaccines." What do you mean I'm missing some vaccines? Where did they go? What I thought when you're born and when you're growing up, you just get every single vaccine. Well, apparently when you're a teenager, you're supposed to go in for like 2 more. Something about not having to develop some sort of like herpes, or actually not even herpes. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't listening. I was 15. Okay, so basically I think I needed HPV, and I was a little bit late, so I had to get 3 doses, and meningococcal disease. Now this one you get later on in your teen years, kind of. What am I supposed, like, that's just how it is. Mumps. Yeah, you don't hear about mumps anymore. Parotid glands make saliva. Swollen glands may tender or painful. The bullshit thing about all this is that, like, you can have all of these symptoms here, okay? And it could either just be like a common cold, or your wisdom teeth are coming in, swelling on one or both of the glands side of the face. The thing is that if I felt swelling in my face, I'd go to the dentist. And he'd be like, I don't know what's going on. And then wouldn't you know, the entire time I was developing mumps. Moreover, I had to get another vaccine. And I just felt embarrassed walking out of there being like, I am 15, 16 years old, and everyone in here thinks I'm anti-vax. Everyone in here thinks I'm anti-vax. And this all leads to the point that, I've been scared of the dentist my entire life. As many of us, we don't like the idea of our teeth being drilled, broken apart, tugging at our jaws. A dentist literally slicing your gum as if it's cutting into a slice of cheese, a board of cheese, saying you have gingivitis. You know what I mean? And let me tell you a little backstory. So I was, I don't know how old I was, but this is 2021. And I realized, it's been 6 years since I've been to the dentist. So when I was making this like list of things I wanted to get things over with this year, I didn't include the dentist appointment because I did not want to put the pressure onto myself, and also I was so deathly afraid of the dentist that I was like, am I really gonna do it this year? And I'm like, well, it's either that or dental implants at 29. So I'm like, okay, fine. Let's go back to 2021. All right, I'm going to the dentist for the first time in 6 years. We got to step back for a little bit. I realize, all my life I've had either a white man or a white woman do my dental work or be my pediatrician. And it wasn't like, oh, my parents were specifically looking for white people. It's just those are the people that are around. And so I forgot that, like, I now have the privilege to choose if my dentist or if my doctor or if my chiropractor is a person of color. And I'm like, you know what? Let's mix things up. Let me find an Asian woman. Let me find an Asian woman. And something that I have to realize and I had to come to terms with is that just because someone is within the same ethnic background, whether it be islands away or the province right over, people don't give a fuck. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you and someone else have the same, like, I don't know, last name. People just want money, okay? I went with a very nice Asian woman. This was my trial into being an adult, that, like, sometimes you just have to trust reviews over their ethnic background. I mean, that's obvious, but, like, when I'm trying to branch out in, like, my diversity of, like, oh yeah, like, my doctor's, like, from Thailand, like, it doesn't actually matter, So I see this dentist and I meet her and she's very sweet and she gives me a hug and I'm like, oh, well, we're already off to a great start. She greets me with a hug. She accounts for how thin I am that she can barely see me, and I'm like, oh thanks. She's like, oh, your waist, I can't even see it. I'm like, me either, whatever. Anyway, so I sit down, I get the x-rays, and immediately, without even looking at my teeth, she looks at the x-rays and she says, you have 11 cavities and we're gonna need to do a root canal. Now, I don't know what it's like to go through anything when it comes to life-threatening situations like a plane crashing or a boat sinking, but it really felt like the water pressure had caved in and all the glass shattered and the plane went down and my brain's all over the fields of Kansas. I really did feel like I have failed at hygiene to the point where I have 11 cavities and a root canal. And listen, when you suffer from depression, when you suffer from mental health issues, these things can happen. And it is not the fault of you, it is the fault of what horrible thing that you are going through. That is not at the fault of yourself, right? When you are going through things, you lack taking care of yourself. That's just how it is. And we will not blame the person who is going through depression, but the depression itself, that's what we blame. But I wasn't depressed. I was just lazy and bored. It wasn't flossing or brushing my teeth regularly. I was just very stupid. And so I was like, you're right, girl. You're right. I need a root canal. And then she went into this whole thing saying, okay, so after we get your teeth fixed, we're going to take your wisdom teeth out. I'm looking around and I'm like, now listen, girl, I know that I have not been to a dentist in a while, but I'm pretty sure that you go to an oral surgeon for root canals. Sorry, even root canals. You go to an oral surgeon for a root canal and all your wisdom teeth taken out. You go to a dentist for a referral to go to an oral surgeon. I might not know much, but I know just a little bit. And so she goes on saying, come in this day. We'll get them done. Have someone drive you. And I'm like, let's discuss the fixable things that we can do at the moment. You haven't even looked in my mouth. Let's look at the cavities. Which ones need to be filled? How long is it going to take? Let's get a quote on those before we start wheeling me in the wheelchair to get my wisdom teeth out. I don't even know if I saw my x-rays. I don't remember, dog. I actually don't remember. Oh, I'm getting hot talking about it. Anyway, I was so scared of the root canal situation because from what I've heard, don't look it up and don't show me, don't DM me pictures, but I hear root canals are just a pain in the ass. And most people just like who get root canals, the tooth that you get the root canal on will have to be pulled later on. If you get to a point in a tooth where it needs to be salvaged by a root canal, and before you're like, well, what is a root canal? Does not the word or the name of it already speak volumes of how scary the process has to be when you get to the root? Do you know what I mean? So, I'm like, okay, girl. I'll come in, I'll do one side, and then I'll do a side next time. So she did half of my cavities on one side, and the other I was going to come in later to do like a month after because I was traveling. 3 years passed by. I don't go back. I don't go back because I'm scared. I don't want to get a root canal. I don't want to get to that point. So I simply, as a girl, ignore it and move on. In my brain, I'm like, a cavity can shrink. A cavity can shrink. I don't know, I'm like, maybe if I just, like, eat enough food, like, it'll fill up on its own. Like, I don't know how cavities work, but, like, I really am convinced that for some reason, if I ignore the problem, it will go away. As Joel Osteen says, a problem can be avoided if you turn your head to Jesus and look for answers beyond the stars and up in the clouds. Moving forward. 3 years passed by. I don't know if it's like the fact that I'm not really busy anymore, but I'm starting to creep in on some issues that have not been resolved since 2021. And I was like, yeah, I can't continue living in peace, satisfaction, happiness, striving for a better tomorrow if the past and the yesterday were not resolved. So I'm gonna have to go back to the dentist. But I don't go back to her because I'm scared of her. I'm scared of her because she wants to take out my wisdom teeth on her own. She wasn't qualified to take out my wisdom teeth, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not crazy and doubting this person, saying that they were not a qualified practitioner in their field, but I'm telling you, you don't get your wisdom teeth out at the dentist unless the oral surgeon goes to the dentist. She wasn't qualified. I'm not doing it, girl. Aspen Dental, you are actually the bane of my existence. My dad has been going to this new guy, and here we go. Oh, you went to a man instead. You know what? When people say that they feel safe when an older white guy flies a plane, I get it. You know, you don't usually trust white people, but when they're the ones, if he looks like he's been flying that plane since the plane got invented, and he's got white hair, and his, like, original airport was the JFK airport, your life is in my hands. I trust you. To the point where I'm not even, like, paying attention to, like, the safety regulations. I'm like, he's got it. If we gotta do a water landing, he's got it. So I went to a white dentist. And it's unfortunate because it's like, it just happened because my dad goes to him and he's like, just go to this guy. And I'm like, okay. But otherwise, if I was looking for a dentist, I'd still look for an Asian woman. I just would do my research a little bit better than I did when I was 19, 20 years old. So anyway, I go to this dentist and I'm like, okay, this guy's about to tell me I need a root canal. I probably need a few teeth taken out. Gingivitis has escalated to a point where it is beyond salvageable. And I'm sweating. I just got the x-rays done. I can feel my heartbeat in the back of my seat. And, you know, breathing exercises don't work for me. You know, I'm breathing in for 5 counts, holding for 5 counts, breathing out for 5 counts. The mind is the most powerful muscle in the body, where it can completely control your nervous system to the point where it doesn't know if it's just getting results from an x-ray that isn't going to, like, change my life or if my plane's about to crash. So anyway, I'm sitting there, the x-rays are done. I'm literally going into, like, panic mode. Before this, I look for my anxiety medication. I'm like, I'm gonna need some meds to cope with the situation. They expired. So I'm like, well, all hope is lost. I'm just gonna have to go through this sober, right? I brace for it, and the guy comes in, and he's like, yeah, well, you just got a few cavities, about 5, and we'll just get it sorted. And I'm like, no root canal? Which is stupid of me. Now that I think of it, I'm like, because I told my best friend this, Key. I was like, yeah, I told him, like, oh, I don't need a root canal. And she was like, girl, why would you imply or propose the idea of a root canal? Now he's probably, like, you're lucky that he didn't, like, see it as a money grab and was like, you know what, yeah, let's do this one. Let's get a root canal on this one. I wanted to clear the air, okay? I wanted to get that idea out of my head and into upper areas where it could be far away from me. Because I've had this idea of a root canal in the back of my brain, settling, marinating, and now it's ready. And he looks at the x-ray, and the assistant does, and they got some new technology, apparently, and they're really honing down on this one tooth, and they're like, if this is the one you're talking about, no, this can be fixed in an hour. Oh God, it's like, you know, those posts on Reels that it's like, relax your jaw, remove the tongue from the top of your mouth, release tension in your shoulders, take a deep breath, unclench your toes. You are free and you are relaxed. That's literally what I felt like sitting in that chair, and I was laughing my ass off. I was going, isn't that crazy? Because my last, oh my God. So what are you doing after this? Oh, you're seeing your grandkids. Oh, William, it's so nice to see you. My boyfriend named William. Yeah, he goes by Weston, but I don't know why they did that. They could have just named him Weston, but whatever, you know. Anyway, so I go back in 2 days because I'm only in town for a couple days, and I'm sitting in the chair, and I haven't actually sat in a dental chair almost upside down in like 2-3 years, right? It's been a while, so my body's not accustomed to my head being lower than my hips. While he was doing like the dental work, I felt at ease, and not because like the situation itself wasn't as dire as I thought it would be, but it was more like the fact that they were talking about random things, him and his assistant. His assistant got recently approved for some sort of school, and they were talking about that the majority of the procedure. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? My situation isn't as dire or like, I'm relaxed because if the dentist does not need to lock in, and he can be talking about other things, and this is just like some casual stuff, I am in a free-for-all. Like, I'm doing fine. It doesn't matter. I am at the chillest state I have been. I feel like I have taken a hit of weed for the first time. I don't know how drugs work. I don't know. I feel like I just had beer for the first time. And what's funny is that I'm in college and I'm graduating this year. My dentist was like, so, what are you in school for? And I'm like, my mouth is open. So I'm like, that's cool. What are you going to do with that? I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, I see him later on. And he says, I forgot to tell you, but, I got my bachelor's in zoology. And I'm a dentist, so I think you'll be fine. Despite it all, that if you're someone who got a musical theater degree, the medical field is still for you. You and me. Isn't that a wonder? Isn't that the American dream? Thank you for joining me today. I think I'm just gonna start doing videos like this, no promises, like podcasty videos. Not really great at vlogging, but I do love to fucking talk. Obviously.